If you go to a farmer's market in Boston and see locally grown tomatoes in January, they'll be selling for $8 a pound. Meanwhile, those Mexican tomatoes at Walmart traveled 2,000 miles and cost $2. Obviously, the local ones are better for the environment, right? Wrong. According to multiple life cycle assessments, those local greenhouse tomatoes have 5 times the carbon footprint of Mexican field-grown tomatoes. How is this possible? Because food miles don't tell the full story. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Modern Grower. I'm Diego D-I-E-G-O, and today we're going to calculate the real cost of your dinner. I used to be that person. You know, the one who smugly bought everything at Whole Foods, convinced that I was saving the planet one reusable produce bag at a time. Then I stumbled across the Cornell University study comparing Northeast-grown vegetables to California field-grown imports. The numbers completely flipped my worldview. Don't get me wrong, I still go to farmers markets. But now I know when local is actually better for the environment, and when it's just expensive virtue signaling. Today, we're investigating why food miles are a terrible way to measure environmental impact, when local food is worse for the planet than imports, how to actually shop sustainably in America. It's not what you think. Subscribe and hit the bell because we're about to destroy some comfortable food myths. The food miles myth. Here's the idea everyone believes. The further food travels, the worse it is for the environment. It makes intuitive sense. Trucking equals diesel equals emission equals bad. Case closed. Except it's not that simple. According to research confirmed by Our World in data in multiple university studies, transportation accounts for only 5 to 6% of food's total greenhouse gas emissions on average. Just 5 to 6%. The vast majority, 80 to 90%, comes from agricultural production itself, land use, fertilizer, equipment, and energy. Let me give you a real example that'll break your brain. Studies from agricultural research institutions and life cycle assessments have found that tomatoes grown in heated greenhouses in cold climates can have a carbon footprint of 3 to 5 kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of tomato. The same tomatoes grown outdoors in Mexico and trucked north as low as 0.6 to 1 kilogram CO2 per kilogram. That's up to 8 times more emissions for the local option. So I started investigating. I looked at peer-reviewed studies from U.S. agricultural universities. I analyzed USDA energy consumption data. I dug into the research from state extension services. What I found challenges everything the local food movement tells you. Why production matters more than miles. Let's break down where emissions actually come from in our food system. According to life cycle assessments and Our World and data, production, 80 to 90% of emissions. That's land use, fertilizer, equipment, and energy. Transportation, 5 to 6% of emissions on average. Retail and packaging, 5% of emissions. Consumer transportation and storage, variable, but often significant. Here's the kicker. Emissions per ton mile fall directly as shipment size increases. That semi-truck carrying 40,000 pounds, way more efficient per pound than your pickup truck driving to the farmer's market. But why are northern greenhouses so energy intensive? Research from North American Agricultural Extension Services show what it takes to grow tomatoes in January in the Northeast. Heating to maintain 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit when it's 10 degrees outside. Supplemental LED lighting on for 16 hours per day in the winter. Ventilation and humidity control systems all running 24/7 for months. Winter greenhouse tomatoes in cold climates are 5 to 10 kilowatt hours per kilogram. Mexican and California field tomatoes, 0.5 to 1 kilowatt hour per kilogram. That's 5 to 10 times more energy for the greenhouse option, and these numbers are confirmed by multiple independent studies. Here are more examples where local can mean higher emissions. Storage apples. Those local New York apples at your March farmers market, they've been in controlled atmosphere storage for 6 months. Research shows long-term controlled atmosphere storage can nearly double the carbon footprint. Fresh Southern Hemisphere apples, in season there, can actually have lower total emissions. Washington State dominates apple production, partially due to ideal conditions, plus efficient storage infrastructure. Winter lettuce. Boston lettuce in February means heated greenhouses or trucking from California or Arizona. The Salinas Valley produces 80% of U.S. lettuce because it's simply more efficient. One refrigerated truck is dramatically more efficient per pound than heating greenhouses. The farmer's market paradox. Research confirms small pickups driving to the farmer's market create vastly higher emissions per pound than commercial trucking. Last mile emissions can be significant when consumers or farmers make many low efficiency trips. This doesn't negate other benefits of farmers markets, it's just the carbon math. U.S. government and university research has documented these regional advantages. California dominance. California grows 1/3 of U.S. vegetables and 2/3 of fruit and nuts. Despite shipping nationwide, it's often the lowest carbon option. Why? Optimal climate and soil mean less fertilizer, water, and energy per pound. Long-haul transport is a worthwhile trade-off for lower life cycle emissions. Idaho potatoes nationwide. Idaho's volcanic soil and perfect climate create exceptional yields. Even shipping to all 50 states, it's more efficient than local potatoes in poor soil. Some states use 3 times more inputs for half the yield. Mexican produce in winter. Sinaloa, Mexico supplies much of America's winter vegetables. No heating required, minimal irrigation. Despite the more than 1,500-mile journey, it consistently beats northern greenhouse production. Florida versus northern greenhouses. Winter berries from Florida, grown in outdoor farms, have a lower footprint than northern greenhouse strawberries, despite the distance. Natural growing seasons beat artificial extension. When local is better. Research confirms in-season, field-grown local produce is almost always the lowest carbon option. Peak season plus outdoor grown. July tomatoes from a New Jersey field. August corn from Iowa. September apples from Michigan orchards. October pumpkins from local farms. Additional benefits beyond carbon. Preserving farmland from development. Supporting rural economies. Fresh produce, especially for delicate items. Building community connections. Reducing corporate consolidation. Based on the evidence, here's how to minimize your food's carbon footprint. What you eat matters more than where it's from. Reducing meat consumption saves more carbon than buying all local. But for produce choices, eat seasonally first, locally second. Summer, buy local. It's peak season most places. Winter, accept that produce comes from California, Mexico, or Florida. Spring, fall, a mix of both, depending on your region. Understand production methods. Ask, is this grown in a heated greenhouse? Field grown from optimal climates often beats forced local growing. Reduce waste above all. Americans waste 40% of food. Food waste reduction has outsized climate benefits. The most sustainable food is the one that gets eaten. The complete picture. The local food movement creates real value, saving farmland, supporting communities, and providing fresh options. These benefits matter and shouldn't be dismissed. But if your primary goal is reducing carbon emissions, the science is clear. Production methods matter more than distance. Sometimes the most sustainable choice is accepting that tomatoes in January should come from Mexico, not a heated greenhouse in Vermont. The real enemy isn't distance, it's fighting against geography and seasons with massive energy inputs. But hey, maybe the problem isn't whether to buy local or from California. Maybe it's that we've created a food system where we expect summer produce in the dead of winter. And that expectation, not the food miles, is really what's unsustainable. But that's just a thought and something for modern growers to think about. Remember to subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.